Who is Tech Jacket? We first see them appear in the Invincible War in the comics and in the TV show as some mysterious character who could solo a variant of Mark. In season 4, we do get to see a little bit more of Tech Jacket. However, I want to break down the origin and how they came to be Tech Jacket. So if you're a fan of the Invincible universe or just want to learn more about the character, feel free to play this in the background while you're knocking out some other stuff, but otherwise, let's get into it. Aliens known as the Galdarians were at war with another alien race known as the Kresh. In season 4 of the show, we learned that the Viltrumites assigned the Kresh the task of taking the Galdarians out as a part of Viltrum's galactic conquering efforts. An intense battle was taking place between a Kresh ship and a Galdarian scout ship, and this is where we first see the Tech Jackets. The Galdarians came out on top in this skirmish. However, their ship did sustain heavy damage and they needed to stop somewhere to make repairs. They attempted to land safely on Earth. However, the ship was damaged far more than expected and they ended up crash landing. The main character, Zach Thompson, had been walking home from school and the ship happened to crash near him. He walked to it, and while the protocol for the ship was to self-destruct to ensure that no one could get access to the intel and technology, the captain of the Galdarian ship saw Zach and didn't want his dying act to affect the life of an innocent. So in the last second, he transferred his Tech Jacket to Zach, protecting Zach from the self-destruction. This thing is now stuck to Zach's body and he spends all day at school trying to remove it with no success. After school, he heads to his dad's shop, and we get to see a little bit more of the suit's capabilities when loan sharks came to harass his dad. They start punching his dad, and Zach jumps in to defend him, unconsciously releasing mechanical tendrils out of the suit. It causes the loan sharks to run away and his dad to ask more questions. Those questions lead to Zach testing the capabilities of his suit by trying to hit bottles from 20 to 30 yards away with tendrils and energy blast, and even him grabbing large trees and crushing them with his hands. We even find out that the Tech Jacket does random stuff, such as manually ridding the host of bacteria, Zach taking that as that he never has to shower again. Just as Zach is trying to learn about the suit, Galdarians show up to apprehend him, calling him a villain. They take him back to Galdaria for trial for number 1, stealing a Tech Jacket from its rightful owner, and number 2, murdering a Galdarian. In transit, they're attacked by a Kresh battleship, and while the Galdarians are distracted, Zach jumps in to help them in the battle since they're pretty much his only way home. He's able to effectively solo this group of Kresh warriors, and everyone there realizes that he has a different level of power. His heroics grant him some grace on Galdaria, and although it is against their rules for any other race or species to wield a Tech Jacket, they are enamored by the possibilities that a human wearing one could bring. See, Galdarians sort of devolved over the years, their bodies shrinking and becoming weaker. Tech Jackets were made to offset that by increasing their physical attributes and granting them more specialized capabilities. For example, Zach's Tech Jacket specializes in battle, and since he is human and humans are physically superior to Galdarians, the Tech Jacket brings him to a higher level than ever seen. One of the main sources of fuel for a Tech Jacket is the kinetic energy produced from the twitching of the muscles. So for Zach, that means his physical skills are boosted nearly 100-fold. In addition to flight, the training that Zach undergoes on Galdaria shows that the Tech Jacket's capabilities even include sensors and targeting systems. Once Zach's training is complete, they begin implementing him into the war effort. He essentially agreed to help the Galdarians against the Kresh if that means they'll get him back home. Through these initial efforts, we see him easily dismantling the Kresh, and his efforts are so crucial that he begins receiving decorations and honors from Galdarians. However, in order to truly turn the tide of this war, they need Zach for one last mission. He's essentially tasked with being teleported into a Kresh spaceship, and they believe he's the only one that can survive since it's only one-way teleportation. He willfully accepts the mission and is teleported into the spaceship, being met by groups of Kresh warriors. He dismantles them easily, even destroying the entire ship from blasts generated by the Tech Jacket. He flies back to Galdaria to see the rest of the Kresh attacking in his absence, but he makes up for that very quickly. While the Kresh are laying waste to a city and attacking civilians, Zach jumps in to protect them and dismantles them once more. The war on Galdaria has officially ended thanks to Zach's efforts. After this, he's sent back home to Earth, allowed to keep his Tech Jacket as a thanks for all that he contributed to Galdarian peace. Upon returning to Earth, Zach goes back to his house, hoping that his parents wouldn't freak out at him missing. He finds his home empty, however, clueless as to where his parents are. He finds his buddy from school to catch up and maybe get a clue on where his parents are, and finds out that he was off planet for 6 months without even realizing it. This whole situation freaks him out, and eventually it points to the loan shark who was terrorizing his dad before he left, Mr. Capella. He threatens the original goons sent after his dad after finding them in his dad's abandoned store after hours, trying to get rid of evidence that could supposedly bury their boss and get him locked up. In fear of him and his tech jacket, they bring him to their boss, where Zach doesn't hesitate to grab him and interrogate him on his parents missing. Mr. Capella has no clue where his parents are, and he's even so scared of Zach that he instantly clears his father's debt, and he wasn't just saying this as a bluff. Zach is still clueless, flying around the planet trying to think where his parents could be. A light bulb moment occurs, and Zach flies to the one place he thinks they could be if they were still alive, his grandfather's home that they use for vacations. He arrives to find his dad there, surprised and with his hair dyed, likely to conceal his true identity. And after briefly catching up and embracing, we see remnants of the crashed battle fleet arrive in the sky, supposedly having tracked Zach back to Earth with the hopes of getting revenge on him for his part in the war. To no surprise, he dismantles them, showing his father the full capabilities of the tech jacket that he first saw on his son 6 months prior. His mom then arrives, surprised and happy to know that her son is alive. However, they can no longer hide why he was gone and this new piece of apparel Zach is sporting. He tells her everything, and she pretty much ignores the craziest parts of it to focus on, number one, her son being safe, as well as not having a nervous breakdown. While all this is happening, a giant ship appears out of nowhere. Zach and his family fearing that it's another attack. Fear not though, because this time it's the Galdarians. They tracked that crashed battleship heading after Zach, and they sent their finest platoon to aid him in an effort to protect their war hero and his planet. They greet his family, and both of Zach's worlds are slowly being intertwined. Before anyone could get comfortable enjoying the company of their new alien acquaintances, however, a new threat appears on the Galdarian mothership, a mechanical beast known as a scav engine. These things prowl space with a constant hunger for scraps and space materials, and the Galdarian mothership was its next meal. This is the first time we've seen Zach struggle in a fight up to this point, with him not being able to take this thing down easily. Through true battle effort and trying to save civilians, we even see Zach has to push his tech jacket to the absolute limit, with its power reserves and structural integrity constantly dropping as the battle goes on. This beast gets bigger and stronger the more it eats, and eventually it consumes all of the mothership that it desires. To everyone's surprise, after that, it leaves since it sees no other meals. Everyone's safe, Galdarians and humans alike. However, the Galdarians with no mothership to return home must take refuge on Earth. The local police show up, guns pointed, in fear of aliens that they have no clue about. This gives us a good idea of where we are in the main Invincible timeline, as one of the cops says, "We don't like aliens. Omni-Man ruined that for you all." Eventually, after displaying peace, they meet the mayor of the town and work out a deal for them to secretly integrate with the town and stay in a motel for a couple of weeks until another Galdarian ship can arrive to ferry them home. We get to see other dynamics at this point, such as Lynn, the Galdarian princess, and Zach being fond of each other. They spend these weeks getting to know one another, and even Zach's family growing closer with the Galdarians. Unfortunately though, this must come to an end as the means for them to return home have officially arrived. Before going, the Galdarians leave Zach with a parting gift, a teleporter built into his closet that takes him into space, where he now has his own satellite monitoring station, like the one that we see in season 4 of the show, for him to be able to monitor threats and effectively protect Earth. Zach, albeit very quickly, has adjusted to his new lifestyle and now wears the mantle of the superhero known as Tech Jacket. That's the origin of Tech Jacket. However, more of the story does get built upon as major events happen in Invincible, and even more solo Tech Jacket stories occur. This breakdown was based on the comics, since we don't have much to go on in the show as of right now. We do know there are some differences, such as Tech Jacket being a girl named Zoe instead of Zach. I imagine that the origin would likely be the same, but hopefully we get more background in the TV show, since in my opinion, Tech Jacket is a dope character. I plan on making a video focusing on how powerful Tech Jacket is. However, if you guys want a video on anything else Tech Jacket related, as well as any other topics, let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed, feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you'd like to stick around for more discussions. Otherwise, thank you for your time and take care.